Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair. I really like Scrubs. Like, seriously, I really like Scrubs. There's a few reasons for it. One, it's a great show. Two, the characters are great. And it just always has good episodes. But some of the episodes are better than others. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. My top 15 Scrubs episodes. Why top 15 Scrubs episodes? Well, I've been binge-watching the show for the past couple weeks, and I need to justify it somehow, aside from indulging my fantasies of being on the show. Well, hell, newbie. That is a charming story, believe me, it is. But I don't have time for your gabbing today, Carrie, and it would be a really big help if you would just do your job like I asked. Can I have my lab coat back? No, I'm not done being Dr. Cox yet.
I can't do this all on my own. No, I know I'm no Superman. I'm no Superman.
Number 15, My Kingdom. I love the subplot. The main episode isn't really anything special for me, but the subplot is. Dr. Cox convinces the entire hospital that Dr. Kelso is dead. And it's hilarious. The reactions of Ted, Todd, and Laverne are perfect.
He's with Jesus now. Tough break, big guy.
And it's funny how everyone in the hospital just believes what Dr. Cox put on the sign. It's like everyone at Sacred Heart is perfect for Tumblr since they blindly believe anything that's put in front of them. Oh, come on, you know it's true. The rest of the episode is okay, but the Dr. Cox plot is why I love the episode so much. And hey, it has the kids from Silver Spoons in it, so that's cool too. Number 14, My Old Lady. This was one of the first examples of Scrubs getting really sad. Prior to this, it had been pretty jokey, a lot like another medical show I enjoy, MASH. This is the Sometimes You Hear the Bullet episode, where they throw in that heart-wrenching, tear-jerking story after you've been laughing for the past 3 episodes. It's a great watch, and while it's not in my top 10, I couldn't have made this list without it. Also, the titular old lady is the old lady from pretty much everything, like Maddie's grandmother from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Mrs. Landingham, President Bartlett's secretary from The West Wing. Number 13, My Old Man and My Cake. This is a weird pair, but I paired them together because they feature an arc about a certain character. Sam Dorian, JD's dad, played by the late John Ritter. My Old Man was about JD and how his relationship with his dad isn't that of father and son, but one of buddies, since his dad always tried to be one of the guys. My Cake is about Sam's death and how JD gets over it. Obviously, the death one was written in as a tribute to John Ritter, who passed away in 2003. Both episodes are great and feature a pretty good arc with JD and his dad, and it's a fitting tribute to Ritter's legacy. My Old Man also has Turk and Carla's relationship develop as Carla realizes that she is just like Turk's mom. And My Cake has Turk learning about and dealing with his diabetes, which makes these already great episodes even better. 12. My Big Brother and My Brother, Where Art Thou? Another pairing. This one is with the arc of Dan Dorian, JD's brother. My Big Brother deals with JD and his embarrassment of his brother, since his brother isn't living the most glamorous lifestyle. And My Brother, Where Art Thou? Is about Dan visiting again and not liking JD's cynicism toward patients, and thinks that being a doctor has broken him. It's a nice arc showing how both brothers care about each other, despite getting on each other's nerves. I always love episodes where they have two brothers getting along. Number 11, My Butterfly. This one is good because technically it's a 2-in-1 episode. We see two versions of the same story, all sprouting from one event, the titular butterfly. It's about, you guessed it, the butterfly effect, showing how a butterfly flapping its wings can cause catastrophic disasters. And this episode is awesome. It shows how just when one event happens, it can spiral into a huge disaster, or it can just be a slightly better result. Plus, it has JD pretending to be Dr. Cox, which is hilarious on its own.
Isn't that right, Dr. Cox? Dr. Cox.
Number 10, My Princess. This episode is great. It's the 7th season finale and revolves around Dr. Cox telling a story to his son Jack. Buddy tells a story about his day at Sacred Heart, but spins it as a medieval fairy tale since Jordan forbids him to tell a hospital story. And it's pretty cool as Dr. Cox tells the story of someone suffering from a disease, but spins it as them being kidnapped by a monster. And he is the brave knight, with a cheesy mustache, who combats it. The best part of the entire episode is the village idiot version of JD, who is basically the regular JD dressed up like he's at a Renaissance fair.
Hey, I'm brave. I just saved this fish from drowning. Off you go, little buddy. He's tired now. Earlier, he was dancing all around.
Also, Dr. Kelso is a demon lord. That's cool too. Basically, the entire episode is awesome. Number 9, My Fallen Idol. Remember how I said this show is a lot like MASH? Well, I wasn't exaggerating. I mean, look at this. And this episode is another MASH parallel, except it's more than just a similar situation. This episode is basically the episode Fallen Idol from MASH, with Dr. Cox and JD substituting for Hawkeye and Radar. In the MASH episode, Hawkeye sends Radar out to Tokyo to find a girl, but he gets injured on the way there and ends up on the OR table. This, of course, drives Hawkeye to feeling guilty, so he shows up to the OR drunk and vomits before leaving, leading Radar to get angry at him because he knows Hawkeye, and the Hawkeye he knew would never show up to work drunk. The Scrubs episode is pretty similar, where Dr. Cox loses confidence after several of his patients die because they all got rabies from transplanted organs from another patient that Dr. Cox thought died of a drug overdose. JD ends up angry at Dr. Cox for the same reason that Radar was angry at Hawkeye, and it's a really amazing episode. Number 8, His Story. This episode was the start of a series of episodes where JD doesn't narrate, instead handing the reins off to someone else, like Turk, Elliot, or in this case, Dr. Cox. Dr. Cox was interesting because we always get to see his life through JD and not through him, but in this episode we get to see him narrate the episode. It's a really interesting episode, and I like it mainly because Dr. Cox is my favorite character, and it's also the first appearance of Johnny, the tackling Alzheimer's patient.
Who am I?
Number 7, My Way Home. This episode is amazing for one reason. It's The Wizard of Oz. If the parallels weren't enough, we have Ted's band singing songs from the movie, which makes it doubly awesome. The episode is also interesting because it shows character development for all the characters, and is all around a good episode. It's also the 100th episode of the show. And what an amazing episode to commemorate it. You know, I can only hope that the 100th episode of this show will be as memorable as that one. Number 6, My Nightingale. This episode is awesome because it's one of the first instances of the group having to deal on their own, and one of the first appearances of Ted's band, the Worthless Peons. The TV theme songs are awesome, and it's great hearing the band sing them a cappella. In fact, I actually have a few of those songs on my phone. Plus, we have some good Dr. Cox and Jordan development, and shows the residents getting some responsibility, and showing their capability as doctors. But I mainly love it for the TV theme songs. Number 5, My Catalyst and My Porcelain God. The best thing about these episodes are Michael J. Fox, hands down. He's a fantastic actor and really nails the Kevin Casey character. Now, I have never suffered from OCD or anything like it, but I have read online that Michael J. Fox's portrayal was pretty much perfect, exactly showing how OCD is as opposed to the not correct portrayals that are usually out there. Another thing that made this episode high on the list was, of course, just Michael J. Fox being there. because it's Michael J. Fox. And it's also good development for JD, Dr. Cox, Turk, and Elliot, which is always welcomed. Number 4, My First Day. The first episode of Scrubs is awesome. It manages to fit in every character's personality into a half-hour time slot. It's a pretty amazing feat considering most shows take an entire season to introduce everyone, or even an entire hour. But this episode not only fits in the main characters, but it also gets most of the supporting cast personalities in, which is why it's such a great first episode and overall episode of the show. Number 3, my finale. Obviously, this episode had to make the list somewhere. This is one of the best television finales I have ever seen, aside from Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, because, come on, there's no beating that one. This episode is also a really fitting finale. Now, while it's not technically a finale, I've read online that the 9th season was really meant to be a spin-off, but ABC wanted season 9 of Scrubs. That's why the logo has the little med school in the brackets. This is the finale of Scrubs. I consider the 9th season to be a different show, hence why none of those episodes are on the list. Also, because, frankly, I didn't really like any of them enough to put them on the list. So why does this episode make the list? Because it's such a great episode. It features all the basic Scrubs stuff and so much more. We have the Eagle moment, the Dr. Cox rant moment, and best of all, the fantasy. And this one has a giant one at the end where JD sees all the people he's met over the years and then sees his future projected on a banner Turk put up that morning, like marrying Elliot and his son Sam marrying Turk's daughter Izzy. It's a touching ending, and I wouldn't have wanted the series to end any other way. We even learn the janitor's name. Plus, we have Dr. Cox's final rant, where he reveals his true feelings about JD, and it's as wonderful as you'd expect. Number 2, my musical. This episode was destined for the number 2 slot. While it's not as impressive as number 1 is, it is one of the best. It's Scrubs, and it's a musical. What more could I ask for? Besides for the songs being amazing and the choreography being superb, it also has a great story, which is good because a lot of musical episodes tend to forego a coherent story for the music. But this episode makes it work, especially since they framed it perfectly, with the patient hearing them sing, but them not actually singing as far as the main characters know. The musical numbers feel organic, and they flow the plot along as opposed to halting it. And hey, the patient is Kate Monster from Avenue Q, so that gives the episode bonus points. And number 1, my occurrence and my screw-up. This should have been obvious. What Scrubs list wouldn't include these episodes, and what list couldn't include them at number 1? These are pretty much defining episodes for both Brendan Fraser's character Ben Sullivan, the brother-in-law of Dr. Cox, and for Dr. Cox himself. They deal with Ben's diagnosis with leukemia and his death, the first of which causes JD to lose himself in a fantasy where Ben doesn't have leukemia, and the second where Dr. Cox goes into denial about Ben's death. They are fantastic episodes, and are really heart-wrenching. They're almost as sad as Abyssinia Henry, but not quite as sad since Ben only had 3 episodes to develop his character, as opposed to Henry Blake's 3 seasons, but it gets you anyway, and that's why it's my favorite. And those were my top 15 Scrubs episodes. Do you agree with the list? Are there any that I should have listed but didn't? Tell me in the comments below. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of the Literary Lair, you can hit the subscribe button down there. And if you like this video, share it to your friends and share it around. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. And if you'll excuse me, I have more fantasies to live out. See you next time. Oh, newbie!